Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Experiences podcast, where we uncover potential design improvements in the world around us by exploring one frustrating experience at a time. I'm your host and chief observer, Geoff Wilson, based out of Auckland, and continuing our local designer series, introducing someone that the design world at large might not know about yet. Today, I'm joined by Lulu Pachuau. She's a design director and longtime UX practitioner. She's currently running UX training courses and consulting through Lushai and UX Gym and working at Hatch. And most importantly, she's a mom. Welcome, Lulu.
Hi, Jeff. Nice to be on your podcast. I haven't been in one of these in a long time. Yes, and ask away. I don't know. Sorry, that was really weird.
No, I love it. I love weird. And as long as you don't mind, I'll keep the weirdness in there.
That's cool. I don't mind.
So basically, today in this episode, Lulu and I were talking beforehand, and we were both interested in vehicle design, and I was interested in airline design and what it's like traveling. But then we realized it's about the context of the people, right? Because you can design features all day long, but unless you understand the context of who's using them, or the absence of what you don't have, what you didn't think about because you didn't consider different people's needs. I realized in this case, she's got a family of 5, and her needs of traveling with her family is far different than mine and my wife's. So in that sense, we wanted to walk through today, not just one experience, but a few different ones, from booking hotels like we've covered in a previous episode to different travel methods and what it's like traveling with a family of 5. So without further ado, with any trip, it needs to start with why. So what do you have for us? What kind of trip do you have in mind that we want to dissect a bit today?
Well, interestingly, since this whole COVID thing, the way we've been planning our travel has been quite different. Because in other years, we would have been going overseas maybe at least once every couple of years or once a year somewhere closer like Sydney or something like that. And 2020, we were planning to go to India, but then we had to cancel all of that. And then we ended up saving that money. And also we had to cancel with Air New Zealand. They gave us credit. So we ended up going to Queenstown and so on. So we've found that since then, we've been craving to travel even more because you get cooped up in the house with the kids for so long. And so we started planning and thinking about what kind of trips can we do. And it seems like the time that we need to travel has now lined up, if you like, timing wise, with kids' holiday time, which is kind of nice because they have holidays and we kind of mentally prepare ourselves a little bit before the holidays start. And it's always like, all right, Airbnb. And so we start planning like that. So my husband is a meticulous travel planner, but seems like since we've not been doing overseas travel so much, I've been the one having to do that. And so as a designer, of course, I come across lots of little things that frustrate me or like as well, surprising.
We're all about frustrations here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what made this industry, I suppose. Otherwise, we won't have jobs, right? If everything was so smooth and no one complained, we'd all be just like no
boring.
jobs. Yeah, it would be super boring. But yeah, I think for me, it's been interesting observing it as from a designer, but also as a person in it. You realize how much you don't know about a person's experience, and you sometimes don't cover some of that stuff either because you either don't have budget or you don't have time or you don't find the right kind of experience that you want to go and dig into. So there's lots of opportunities out there, I think, from a designer's point of view. But as a mom, of course, it all starts from the like 2 or 3 weeks before a school holiday would start. The kids are already asking, "Mom, where are we going next?" And it's always fun to go troll through Airbnb, make a list of things you want. Kids always want to see all the pictures so they can choose the rooms they want to be in. When my kids were younger, so I've got 3 girls, ranging from she's almost 11, the oldest, and then 9, and then 4. And they choose their bedrooms they love, and that experience is so fun with them. And it already starts from there, which is, can I see the place? Can I see the room? Which room can I have? Oh, this one has a bunk room. This one doesn't have a bunk room. Can we make sure we have a bathtub? Things like that. And so that our experience, I think, already starts from there. And it's become a bit of a ritual with our family.
It's a lot different than, the old school way. And of, you just, the second dad or mom opens the front door of the hotel or wherever you might be staying, and the two, like I had my brother and I, you run to the bed that you want and just try to like pile on it, grasp the bed and hold on, and then you're fighting over which one, and then they both yell at you, and okay, yes. Fine, you guys are sleeping together then, and
we still get that, but it's like this anticipation is really, really interesting for them. Like we just booked one for this coming weekend because my husband's birthday and we want to do a big thing, and then decided that let's go book a nice place. But then all the other criteria start coming into place. Right, we now have a bigger budget. That's great,
Hmm.
but it needs to be not too far from Wellington. It needs to be easy enough that the place has to be self completely contained. Like we don't want to go out. We want to just spend the 2-3 days without having to go out. And we like cooking ourselves. We both of me and my husband, we cook a lot, but we also like enjoying a little bit of going out. But because we know we want to teach our kids that it's important to cook for yourself and all those things, but also it's just cooking things that are familiar to them. It's just less hassle at the end of the day.
The fun part is I'm always notorious in not necessarily getting episodes out in a timely order of when I actually record them. So hopefully, for your sake, it doesn't sound like releasing this 6 months or now from a year from now, the world's totally changed, and you sound either crazy or like over prepared, or you're way ahead of the curve. But hopefully, we'll get this out sooner than later, so it's quite actually relevant.
Well, we're definitely a lot more. I think the more we've done this, the more prepared we get. I think, and then we start looking at weather, and then if it's a road trip or not. So if it's a road trip, we already anticipate all the things that we get annoyed with in the car. But there are some things that just never change.
So in the car, yeah. So what's going on in the car? What are the things? And so, I mean, I guess in this case, how far do you usually go? Because I'm imagining that changes that car experience overall of what it's being like being in the type of vehicle you choose to take, how far you have to go. So yeah, in this case, how long is it that you have to go to?
We try to go to places that are less than 4 hours drive, which sometimes is not possible because the places we want to go are further away. We really try and avoid airports at the moment during well, in the last maybe 2 years now, of course. But yeah, the next one I'm going to is 2.5, maybe 3 hours away. But yes, I'm already annoyed at the idea of not being able to carry big bottles of water because there's
Hmm.
never space to put that bottle that's more than a liter big. I don't know about you. We've got a big people mover car because one of the advantages of having a big car is you can put the kids in different minimum safe distance from each other so they don't annoy each other. But also, you think that there's going to be enough spaces, which is the other thing that I hate about the cars is that the space between the car seat and the kids is actually really far away. So all the things that you would normally think you can put things conveniently for the kids to reach, they can't reach it. It's too far.
Like because the seatbelts, like they can't
Yeah,
bend over to
yeah.
actually
So
grab stuff.
they sit at the back. They are strapped down. They can't reach any of the things that you would normally organize their things into, because that's
Hmm.
I guess it's just made for adults who can move around while they're traveling, and especially when you have a toddler who's sitting in another car seat, they can't move. So you have to give them everything through the front seat, or your other kids have to give each other things, and they drop things on the floor. It's just this big mess, which then leads me to my next thing of why are these cars equipped with some kind of rubbish bin in every corner that you can easily then take out when you're in a stop somewhere at the in a petrol station or something like that. So I have to always remember to carry a whole bunch of plastic bags which you can't easily access anymore because the world is going plastic free. So and I'm cool with that, but at the same time, can you just give me something that I can just kind of tack onto the front of the seat that my kid can access or reach? So because they're all good, you can tell them to put their rubbish in there. That's what you teach them all the time. But when you're in a car, what do? They just stick them on the side of the car door, and then
I
you have
was
to
gonna
go and
say,
clean them up. Yeah.
I was gonna say exactly that. That I was like, well, we've got 4 rubbish bins in our car. It's called the 2 center cup holders and 2 the outside cup holders. But
Exactly.
you're totally right there. That yeah, it just gets all gunky after a while, especially if sodas
Exactly.
spill or
What
whatever.
if you forget them? What if there's a kid all the way in the back seat in the people mover car and it's been sitting there for what months? And
Hmm.
the other day I found us cleaning some dried up banana peel and apple core. It's not pleasant, you know?
So actually, on that note, because that's one little aspect of it, right? It's well, you could line it with a bag, especially if you're going on a long trip. You've got some really messy stuff like fruits and bananas. If those things could pop out, would that actually help you at all? So
I
if
think
the cup
so.
holders could pop out, you could take them to a bathroom sink at a restroom or a service station or whatever, and give it a quick rinse. Would that actually be something that functionally actually works for that?
Maybe not the cup holders, but I would definitely put them, and I have done this slightly unsuccessfully, uh, behind the car seat where you were sitting as the
Hmm.
parents there, because that's quite far away from the kid. There's actually enough space that you can kind of imagine if you could pull it towards you, and it's now big and close enough for the kid to then put their rubbish in, and they can just push it back. That would be great, because then you pull it out, put your rubbish in, close it again. Something that kind of clips on, or something, some magnetic thing. I don't know, Velcro. I don't care. Something that can pull towards you. Rubbish bin, push it back. Done. And then when you're ready to put it away, throw it out, and then just whatever, air it out, things like that. I think
Yeah.
that would be great. I can just see that being. I would buy 20 of those.
Well, this is always the fun part of doing what we do, because it's that idea. Both of us know very well from the job. You never really take direct suggestions from the consumer, right? It's the whole faster horse analogy for people who still want to use that. You never want to get, but that's exactly what we're doing. But that's what I enjoy in this show. It's still thinking. We're not saying that these are the definite answers, but it's getting that thought process going of what is the actual problem? No rubbish bins, or there is places, but they get sticky. Well, that's a new problem to solve. Well, how might you
Yeah,
solve
so
it?
many little nested problems, right? Because I get it. You want to understand the goal. Yeah, my goal now is to go and reach a destination that I can enjoy with my family. But all the tiny little steps you have to take to get there can ruin the goal of getting there in the first place. So I think if we took more care in understanding these more, what I call nested problems inside the problem, that would just take away that would make the next one better and better and better and better. So it's a little bit like, I guess, when you're building a house, you always have to, you need the scaffolding, and the scaffolding needs some other support, and that support needs another support. What if that little support wasn't there? The top thing will just fall apart. If you just focus on how beautiful the house is going to look all the time, how the hell are you going to start building it if you didn't have that very small atom of a thing that makes everything up? So if you think about travel and those things, everything that makes it up, where are the opportunities to make things better for the next thing, so it becomes a non-problem?
I love it. Yeah, I love this idea of nested problems. And I think so. Going back a step too, one of the ones you mentioned and that spawned to a lot of this is the space. And so I do want to get back to the, because you mentioned how it's big enough that luckily you keep them away from each other. And so when you first said minimum distance, I was like, minimum COVID distance? Of course not. It's a family. It's minimum slapping and hitting
Oh
sisters and
yes.
brothers distance.
Yep.
But then you said that the interesting part for you is then the things that you have packed for them to get, they can't actually reach.
Yeah.
So going back to the solutionizing, I guess, I mean, what is that like for you? Is it bags that you've packed and you just try to put between the seats for them to
Yeah,
get
I
stuff, or
have. I
what?
do that. Yeah, we do. We have individual bags we pack for them, and as you've mentioned, great observation. They are far away from each other, but at the same time, we immediately create a dilemma of, oops, we now need three small bags for them to have their food and whatever else is in there. But I mean, they also don't like sharing, so that's probably not a bad thing. So then you can kind of customize it. It's all part of the experience of the trip, that they like, oh, my bag, my bag, my bag, and it's nice, and they actually look after that. But then it becomes too hard and far for them to reach for the smaller ones, and then you end up getting either the driver really having to reach to the back to give it to the child, or I have, if I'm not driving, I have to then reach in a very awkward way, and it's really dangerous, right? If you're in a position where you're driving, or you're not quite right, you could get accidentally come out of your car seat, or seat belt, or something like that. So I think it's quite hazardous. And the kid's like, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. When the kid's hungry, you got to give them something. You'll do anything to shut them up. So it's just all these things, all these frustrations. You get so stressed out, and then one of the things that we do a lot is try and make sure that our road trip always passes nice big playgrounds, which New Zealand is really great at that. And which we always plan, when before we leave, we always make time, enough time for maybe about an hour or an hour and a bit into our drive. We try and find a place to stop where we can clean ourselves, the car a bit, because I just personally, I just find it frustrating to be in a cooped up car that's smelly, or I can just hear all the chips and bits and pieces falling in the car. So I need to do a bit of that, but also just stretch our legs. And then we often go past Levin, where there's a really big playground. It's beautiful. It's really nice. It's awesome. The kids look forward to that as part of our trip all the time. Then you go there. The facilities are great, but then you're like craving for some coffee or something, and there's nothing. Like, what the hell? This is giant playground, and there's one tiny coffee cart. Come on, I would pay $10 for a flat white right now.
Actually, on that note, I mean, if they were, I don't know if they have like coffee vending machines. I don't drink coffee, so I don't really fully know.
Right.
But I mean, because I'm thinking playgrounds. It's one of those you might arrive at any point in the day. You might be in a
Yeah.
long trip, road trip in the early morning, late night. So maybe food carts and little coffee shacks and stuff aren't open yet. But I would like to think that maybe yeah, it's just if you get a lot of traffic there, put out some kind of
Oh,
instant
totally.
purchase it from a machine. It might not be the best, but it might suffice that aspect of it at least.
No, I think so too. I think again, depending on the time of day we arrive around that place, I often see a line outside this little coffee cart, and it's not the best coffee, but you don't care. You just want that coffee, and I always make sure I buy something because it's not actually the taste of the coffee at that point. It's the representation of it. It means I've sat down, I've got a little bit of time to myself, but the kids are hanging out, so I like you want to feel that you've done something, that you're quote unquote relaxing, you know. And so it's almost a it's a weird thing, but I like observing myself. Like when I do something, I go, why did I do that? Why am I so grumpy that I didn't do this thing when I wanted to do it? And it's often not because of the thing itself, it's what it represents for me. And I also think other people feel the same way. They may not be able to articulate it, but I like observing my own actions and go, why did I do that? Why did I get upset? Or why was I so happy when that happened? Oh, it's because of this, you know? And I often try that with other people as well to go, why do you think you did that? Is it because of this? Or did you really like having that break? You know, and it's true. And I actually think it's true. I, before I had kids a long time ago, I used to smoke a lot, but I mean, I haven't smoked for ages. But one of the things I liked about smoking was not the cigarette; it was the fact that you took a break, and I think it's a similar thing in this case too. And it could be anything. It could be coffee, it could be cigarettes for some people, or e-cigarettes, I guess, or just taking that little break.
Kids are running off at this point. You've got your minute. They might come up to go, mommy, mommy, go, shut up. I'm dealing with this. It's just me right now. Quiet for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. And this place in particular is, I think, one of the reasons we love about it is that it has great facilities to, toilets, great place, very open space to wash your hands. Everything is really, really well designed in that area, except for I wish there was just more options for coffee or a little bit of, I don't know, snacks or something like that. And I'm sure this person is making lots of money. I hope they do. And the same goes for this other place we like going to in Avalon Park. They don't. They have no. There's no coffee carts. It's a huge place. There's lots of parents go somewhere else and come back. It's so inconvenient. I don't know what the council is doing about that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the great story because it's one of those things just like this. Nobody might be considering that aspect if they haven't actually talked to people like this. As somebody who doesn't have kids right now, that's my same interpretation. If we talked about a trip, if for work for whatever we were doing, and I go, "Where did you go?" "Oh, you went to here." Well, okay, cool. That you got A to B, and maybe your maps helped you get there, but
Mm.
nothing about thinking to ask somebody, "Oh, did you? How did you stop? Where did you stop? Why did you stop?" And not only where did you stop, but then what do you want to do when you actually get there? Like, what is the so I'm going to make an assumption here that when you stop at a playground, is it like you said, one to give yourself just a mental break off the road, relax, fresh air, but then also is it to like wear out the kids, like get some of their energy down at least before you put it back in?
Oh, it's a huge, huge part of that is that most parents, if you ask them past the toddler age, you need them to get that energy out of the car. That's the same reason we do when you're not traveling. You need to take them out, get the energy out, and then you come back in the car, they're a bit more relaxed and they can calm down a bit more. And they need that. We need that, And the other thing, when it's if it's about the travel, because that's not the destination, you have a small amount of time there. It's maybe anywhere between 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes tops, I guess half an hour if it's part of lunchtime. So you don't want to spend too much time there. Otherwise, obviously, your actual destination, you might get there too late. So you have to bear that in mind. So we have to try and make sure that that time is accounted for when we leave the place. And we often use it as a way to hustle the kids to go, hey guys, if you don't leave now, we can't get to live in on time, things like that. So it's part of that whole experience. It's an anticipation the kids have that we're always going to stop someplace like that. It's an expectation now.
So what about I guess yeah, so on this road trips we've heard some of the things about driving, or at least a few of them. Some stops along the way, things you need. Is there anything else on a road trip specifically that typically ends up happening? Or anything else you have to deal with as a family that might be a little bit different from others?
I think the other thing is actually music in the car.
Oh yeah, entertainment. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
entertainment is actually important. We've been very lucky that our kids like the music that we like, which as a tip, if you're planning to have kids, it's actually, you can actually teach them cool music. Or I don't know what your taste in music is, but you don't always have to listen to Wheels on the Bus, or those, what are those kids listen to? Well, I can't remember because our kids don't really listen to them, but you can teach them. So, and it's quite fun that we try and do that a lot. And we also listen to audiobooks a lot instead of just music. And most recently, we've been listening to podcasts, kids podcasts for the kids, and we actually all have fun listening to it because it's also quite interesting. So those are quite interesting things that we have to prepare for a lot mentally, because depending on how long it is, we want a variety of things, not just music, podcasts, audiobooks, etc. Yeah,
Because I guess there's also different ages then, right? And so unless you've
yeah.
got like triplets, then you got different audio ages, different needs. And so the smallest ones might just be, cooing and cawing in their little cot, car seat. But then the other ones might be like, well, maybe they want to physically play with toys. Maybe another one just is comfortable just looking at the window, but maybe they want to interact. Maybe they want to jump around. So is there anything else? Is there strategies for that at all? I mean, I don't want to make this a parenting podcast, but in terms of, car features and space to do things, because I know for a while, there was the back of the headrest kind of monitors and things that certain cars would have. I'd see them in the US at least. And I know there's a chip shortage that's happening right now in vehicles worldwide, where basically they don't have the chips that they can make a lot of these special features for things like that. So if you've got a model that happened to have a lot of these gizmos and tech and navigation equipment and things like that, those are actually harder to find now in a brand new
Mm.
car. But where I was getting to in that whole ramble was in I keep saying in-flight entertainment. I'm just ready to get to planes.
Right, well, it's kind of similar. Yeah, it's kind of similar. A lot of cars do have that, but we haven't gone down that path. Well, one, we try, as most parents will try, to keep your kids off digital UI. Oh, sorry, me saying, look at me say UI, screens as much as possible. So our strategies have always been to plan mentally, as well as make sure that there's enough things to switch between. So it's mostly audio, the things that we do. We actually tried once with the screen stuff with my oldest and my eldest, but it didn't work because we had to still help with a lot of things, which you can't do when you're in the car. So I suppose the ones that have those in-car entertainments, they probably have those facilities, but I don't have experience with those, so I can't really comment on those. But one thing that we have done a lot that has helped is create a playlist before we go, and the kids have their own playlist, and then we take turns with the kids. So the kids, it'll be like Alex, which is the youngest, she'll have her playlist, and Jojo has her playlist, and Sam has her playlist. The parents would just go with, well, you know what, we just have to deal with the thing that they're listening to. Like the last time, it was mostly Beatles. We listened to a lot of Beatles. And before that was David Bowie. And so we tend to try and rotate those things, and we tend to do a lot of games with the whose song is this, what's the name of this song, things like that. So we kind of, again, it's part of that experience that we've developed our own tradition, I suppose, as a family. But I did ask my daughter just before this podcast, hey, Jeff's gonna ask me about traveling in the car. What's your least favorite thing? She says, Alex always has her turn more than me in the
Ah,
car because she's the youngest. And I said, do you not like her music? She's like, no, I don't hate it, but sometimes it's just too often. She'll play the same song like 100 times. So yeah, they've learned their own tactics of what to make her listen to, so it's not something they don't like.
nice, nice.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. Human beings are really good at adapting. I think this is, again, as a practitioner, there's something I've observed over the years is we are so good at solving our little nested problems that you could potentially, come up look at solutions in a very weird way instead of just going with that. You go, wait, why did you do that in the first place? That could have been avoided altogether. But at the same time, that could also pose a new opportunity, I suppose.
So with that, I guess the comparison, since I did accidentally mention in-flight entertainment, what's the difference then in riding in a car together, where obviously it's your thing, you've got control of where you stop, you've got control of what the entertainment is inside. How does that work for something else like a plane?
I'm glad you asked because the last time we flew, we had all three girls. The reason why we took that long to travel because my youngest, Alex, she was just almost 2. We waited that long because the previous time we flew a long distance to India with my other toddler at the time before I had my third one, she we couldn't get flights for her without without using the bassinet because of her age. So you had to use the bassinet. We had to use the bassinet seat. I don't know what it's called when you're under 18 months. So we traveled when she was 16 months, I think, but she was already too big for the bassinet. So she couldn't have her own seat because it was the rule, the policy for her age. And of course, she was walking and talking almost. She was quite a a fast growing kid. So she wanted to have her own seat, etc. So anyway, we went to Japan in 2019, and we decided that year because Alex was very close to two, and so she could have her own seat. And also we made sure that we got the what is it called, the air couch, is it called
Oh,
the Air
Sky
New Zealand
Couch.
Sky Couch? Yeah, that was a boon. That was so good. I wish they had it for before.
Well, let's explain what that is, because I know in the states I haven't seen any American airlines at least that have it, and I haven't used the Air New Zealand one yet. My parents had, but for everybody else, explain what that is. This glorious, glorious decision that it changed air travel. I still
Oh,
haven't
it
taken it.
has for parents, and I bet I think if I was traveling by myself, I'll probably buy that as well. If you're traveling long distance, yeah. So it's basically a three. If you one row of seats can be transformed into like a bed. So imagine all the seats below each of the seat. You pull out something, and then imagine all the three seats. All the thing at the bottom comes up, and then becomes basically a tiny little bed, and kids can play on it or sleep on it and just hang out and chill there, feeling like in first class.
Yeah.
Kind maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it was a boon because I asked around my friends, and they said definitely get the Sky Couch, and they have it on the flight to Tokyo. So we did that back on both sides, and it wasn't that much more. It do pay a little bit more, but it's totally worth the price.
It's yeah, it's the price versus how do you want to arrive with your entire family, or are you going to be
Exactly.
like
But the
I see
last
what you're
time we
doing.
flew, I'll tell you, my husband always jokes that the last time we flew with a toddler, he said he walked from New Zealand to Singapore because he was just caught because the baby didn't want to be in the bassinet. It was too small. And then when there was any turbulence, you had to have the baby on your lap. So she was hardly on the bassinet ever. So it was just so bad. And so we'd either hold her or walk with her up and down the plane. So he always says he walked all the way through to Singapore.
Yeah, so you've got some ways to make your seating a little bit more comfortable, some play spaces. What about the rest of it? I mean, so what's it like even getting them onto the plane, getting them situated, for takeoff and landings and stuff?
Again, for us, Alex has allergies. She's allergic to eggs and dairy, which is thankfully growing a little bit out of. So our trip this time literally started before we wanted to make sure that the plane had soy milk, the plane had food that didn't have eggs, and all of those things. And that was actually really, really, really hard to coordinate and find out. And so, because otherwise we would have to bring our own food, which we were fine to do. But then, of course, you forget that, and no one told you. And I guess in some ways maybe it's not their job, but I also feel like maybe it should be to remind you, hey, one, if you have allergies, you can bring stuff to the plane, but make sure it's within a certain type of container. I don't know, whatever. Because you get all, because you're trying to overpack for things. You're going for a very long trip, so you have bags that's full of soy milk and so on, and then you get to customs, and they're like, sorry, you can't take that on the plane. They're like, oh shit, of course you can't take it on the plane because it's more than 100 mils or whatever it is. And so you feel so awkward checking in. But I just wish that there was some either a checklist or something that would have really helped us as parents with three kids. I mean, getting them on and off was actually fine because they're all carrying their own bags. Those were the stress points for us, was trying to make sure either the plane had things that our kids could eat, and also if you were going to bring them on, what was the requirements around how much you could take and in what type of container and things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then the same thing on the other way is when you get off the plane, because our customs are quite strict, we would stress out. We throw everything out, because you can't bring anything in. And I remember this is ages ago now. We got caught with a banana peel. We didn't
Oh,
realize was at the bottom of the bag,
you
and
got
we had to
banana peels
pay.
everywhere in your doors and your.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens, and then you get distracted with the kids, And so anyway, I guess there are things you can't avoid, but but I totally think that there are things that could have been that can be better for parents traveling with toddlers, especially. because after a certain age, it's definitely easier because they can watch TV and they're really good at accommodating for kids. And then the other funny thing is, when you're under 2 or under 18 months, if you're a kid or a baby on that ticket, I think they just assume they just all eat baby food.
Huh.
Like the food they gave us on the plane, at least at the time, I don't know if it happens now. They gave my toddler literally baby food out of a jar. My baby can eat sandwiches, you know. She's 16 and 18 months old. She can eat solid food, proper food, and like, what is she didn't want to eat anything. Yeah, so, and we had to give some of our food, which obviously was fine, but it was just not expected, and so you're not prepared, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so we, whenever we've traveled, even domestic, we always carry a small pack of sandwiches every time we travel, just in case, because we don't know what's going to happen. And of course there's allergy stuff happening as well. The breakfast is always difficult because all the breakfast, I think they assume either you just want things with eggs or things with milk,
Hmm.
and neither of which apply to us. So again, you don't want to be an inconvenience, but at the same time, you just go, "Oh, fuck, this is just so bad." You know, you're sitting in this small space and you're just worried about all these things. So yeah,
I now wish instead of airline, breakfast foods like eggs and pancakes and things, I wish they had like leftover pizza because
yeah.
that would fit my life. Leftover chicken wings, leftover pizza, that'd fit my life a lot, a lot
Oh,
closer.
I can see. Well, the Asian airlines were so much better. Again, the Singapore Airlines and Cathay Pacific that we used to travel in, they would have 2 minute cup noodles for snacks, which I would rather have. Our kids, none of those things have eggs, none of those things have milk, and it's super easy to make and easy to eat because they're just in a cup. And so I just wish all airplanes had something like that, that are just easy and convenient for parents to go and make.
From a service design perspective, what I want to break down there is I always try to wonder, well, why might they not? And I was thinking, well, cup noodles, I guess you do have a lot of water that for people who don't eat it, like don't drink all the broth and stuff. Now you have a lot of water you have to figure out how to dispose of, and so then maybe there's complications in that versus it's mostly if it's solid sandwiches and apples and stuff, you could just toss it all into a hard bin, close it up easy. You don't have to worry about dripping and water splashing around. And I guess also there's less risk of, if somebody knocks a sandwich off their tray, it's not really going to stain somebody else's clothing. Whereas if you hit a cup of noodle broth, it's hot broth, it gets burned on another passenger now. And so I
Have
guess
you had
there's,
cup noodles,
yeah,
Jeff?
yeah, no, yeah, many times.
You know, if the water gets absorbed in the thing, it doesn't, it's not that
That is, if you're
watery.
doing it right, it is.
Fair enough. Okay, that's
If you're
fair.
not like over anxious and like, I just want to eat it now, I can't wait. Just eating the brick of noodles hard. No, I
Oh, my
haven't gone
kids
that
would
far.
do that. My kids would eat just a brick. They would prefer to eat that. But yes, but jokes aside, it is that's it. That is a consideration to make, I suppose. Yeah. I think the other thing for me, again, before we had kids, with John and I, my husband and I, we loved traveling, of course, and we racked up lots of points, and then we would be, in the best seats and everything. We'd look forward to having that wine and everything. With kids, those are gone. That's it. Say
Hmm.
goodbye to those things. Don't even think about opening up that magazine. So one thing that has really been a big thing for us is, as a big family, when you get off the plane, you need a bigger car to take all your luggage in one thing. So when we went to Japan, we had to wait in line for way longer than we would have if it was just a couple, because we needed a car of a certain size, and we needed one that would take us to the place we wanted to go. And also for us, we live actually quite close to the airport in Wellington. So
Hmm.
we often feel bad to get a taxi that only takes us 2 minutes or 5 minutes away from our house. And we actually experienced that when we came back from Sydney one time, and even from Japan as well. But one thing we always, every time, it's funny, is, oh, I just wish you could just pre-book an Uber or something, and they would be able to know that you've arrived and you're just there. So it's win-win for everyone. They don't have to wait for you for ages, and we don't have to wait in line for hours when the kids are tired and you're just trying to figure out where your hotel or wherever you're going to stay is. And it would just remove those things so much. And because I've heard from other cab drivers where one of the problems about taxi or being a taxi at the airport is them having to wait, as well as in, you know uh, if you're unlucky, you could get passengers who just want to go short distance like
Yeah.
us. So but if you could kind of pre-book some things like that, I would love to do that. I would pay a little, even an extra, just for that, because it means that it saves me time and
Hmm.
stress, and I would get home early or faster and not have to worry about which car to use. Yeah, I know. Just thinking about that. But the best one we've had was, I think we went to Auckland. It was a short trip, um, and we thankfully had. It was just like our car was waiting for us. Like it was just right timing. Oh my god, it's right there. Take it, take it, take it. Before someone jumps in, but the guy actually waited for us because there was another couple or something. They went and got the small car, and then we got to the big car. And so we pre-booked him on their way back.
Nice,
We used the
nice.
same guy, and that was so much better. He was happy, we were happy. We yapped about the same car that we had and all that stuff. But imagine if that was the same every time. That would just be stress free.
Yeah,
You know.
no, I like it. Yeah, there's an opportunity there. Anything else on the airline side of things before we move on from that one? Any other interesting aspects of? I mean, I guess if you've gone to Japan, how long of a flight is that? Because some flights, when there's overnight and there's sleeping and stuff, there could be. I guess there could be more options there, or more interactions, or interesting circumstances that with a family of five you might have to go through that other people might not.
Well, our family of five. John is a giant. He's 6'3", and I'm really short, five something, right? And so we have, in terms of the seats, we had to be very careful in booking the air couch with me and the kids because no way he would have fit in there
Hmm.
with the kids. So those are little things that you often don't think about, but I don't know how you'd solve that problem at all. But it's just interesting thing for us to consider, and also if there are other parents out there, to think about those. But we did a lot of research about that. I think the other thing for us was one of my kids. She has a tendency to throw up on the way down. Sorry, I'm just talking about really gross things for you. So
That's fine. I'm not bothered. I can't speak for everybody listening, but hey,
but
it is what it is.
Air New Zealand, they were so good. They just made me not stress out. I think that was something that was a surprise because as soon as they saw that happen, they came and gave me hot towels with eucalyptus, and to me, that just really removed a lot of the stress I had as a mom. My kid threw up all over my body, and which also happens. And other times they tend to just, it's like they aim for me or something. But yeah, they were so good. It was like no one it was, I don't think more than half of the passengers didn't even know what was going on. They were so good at that. So I think I definitely commend them for that. In terms of my experience, that's on the top of my, it was a bad experience to turn into a good experience, that it didn't take long for me to be embarrassed about and all that stuff. So I think that is good to know and consider, because you talk, you research, you talk to customers and people, you focus a lot on the bad things, but I think it's good to sometimes talk about what's good and what could kind of override bad experiences as well. What could possibly be something that would just mitigate a whole bunch of bad things that you just can't control.
That's one of those like planned yet unplanned brand touch points, right? And so
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
like their brand strategy is going to dictate that we specifically need a measure and a metric at OKR for puking children on flights.
Exactly.
It's probably one of those staff. I mean, this is, I guess, how I'd hope it come up is the staff might have had, hey, here's the story that happens. Here's what I had to deal with as a flight attendant today. And then if that works its way up, it maybe becomes not like an official procedure, but one of
Totally.
those things of we've planned enough that if this thing happens, we can do that. And then by making you feel good, I mean, that's a brand touch point that nobody in the brand department would have ever thought about. But here you are talking about it and saying the name and being happy to say they make me feel comfortable as a mom.
Oh
They
yes.
get rid of my worries. That's stronger than saying, "Oh, the flight was on time. Oh, the seats were nice." This is. It sounds like way stronger of a feeling overall.
Oh, absolutely. And they were just working in synchrony. It was weird because it was about and it often happens when the plane's changing its height, right? Because it's getting ready to land, and that's when the body changes and you're getting sick. If you're going to sick and throw up, that's around the time. So these guys are trying to make everybody sit down, and so we couldn't get out of our seat. But man, it was like bam, bam, bam. They just knew exactly what to do. Cleaned me up, cleaned my daughter up, gave me stuff, and it smelled fresh because of all the things they had on these hot towels. They already knew. They put. I saw them. Someone was like putting eucalyptus tea tree oil on the thing, and it felt familiar because I used it with the kids too. I don't know about other parents, but but it's just was like we got back on the ground and we just felt like, oh man, that was so good. It was bad, but it turned into a better experience than you would have thought, because you just get so scared that you're going to derail the plane or whatever. But it's a big, because it's very memorable, as you can hear me talk about, because we often talk about that, my husband and I.
And that's where let's. I'm gonna shout out to one of both of our mutual colleague friends, Nick Balmast in New Zealand, because one of the best things in his book, User Palooza, he's got a little triangle, I think it was, and he's always talks about don't just study the people that are the average, the easy people to study, the people that you can find real easy. Study the outliers, study the freaks, geeks, and everybody else, and everybody else on the outside. I think he even used the term freaks and geeks in that. But like this, like study the mom with 5 kids and figure out like what kind of things is she going through, because it goes back to that accessibility kind of angle. If you do something well for her, if anybody else has an issue, maybe they do throw up, or maybe they spill soap, or I mean, not soap, soup on themselves or whatever,
Yeah.
right? It's like that same procedure can be reused, but you make this great thing for everybody by studying the outside. And again, nobody's ever going to hear that story of the airline journey experience without hearing real life stories of what actually goes on.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It's that extra thing that they used to do. I don't know if they still do, or did, with just having the kid carry the sweets across the plate, the seats.
Oh, yeah.
Those types of things. Those are little touches that kids never forget. Like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. I distributed sweets to people, and it's such a strong memory for them. Those that type of touch. It's opportunities like with the mom with 3 kids thing. I think the other thing that came to my mind was the opportunity you have there with the brand touch point that you may not have thought about. Because if you, as a mom, can afford three kids, can afford to travel to Japan for 1 month, come back with their decent thing, that means they probably are quite influential. They may have lots of friends they can
Hmm.
talk to. So there's, if you think about all the things around that, looking purely from a brand point of view, as a service, you might be hitting something that you might not have realized, that this one person could influence way more people than the 2 people that you're standard procedure catering to, you know?
I like it. So I think that's enough for airlines. Maybe one last travel thing. You did tell me you also took a trip on a boat, and
Yes, we
the most
did.
I generally go on is like a ferry that's like a 45-minute travel. Yeah. So what's your boat travel experience? The two we've covered: land, sea,
we,
or land, air, and now sea.
I know. I wanted to quickly talk about that because it was the one travel experience that we didn't have any of these problems, because it was lots more space because kids can run around. They just had a lot of space for kids to hang out, and the food was decent. They had lots of coffee, they had lots of wine for parents, and yeah, just generally, it was just so much more relaxing. And of course, it took longer than you would on a plane or driving, but I don't know. There was something about that travel that was an experience in itself. But just compared to the other travel, the space, all that stress that you have as a parent, it's not there, and it's safe because you're just inside the space. It's not like you got to jump off the boat or something.
Yeah. So is it like the combination of all of those things that just went really well on this kind of boat
I
trips?
think we were probably lucky because, of course, I know with boats, with depending on the weather, it can go very badly, and that's probably why I think they try to make the travel as comfortable as possible. So, but I think there is something to be said for other forms of travel. Is there anything here, again, as a researcher and the designer, why is this so much better than air travel? Why is it like, is there something we can do at airports when they're waiting for stuff? Is there something we can do at these stops where, we're like on our way to back and forth or in between traveling and taking a pit stop? Is there something that we can do? Is there an opportunity there for someone to go and accommodate people traveling with family, things like that, that you could apply the same things that you might have experienced in a really nice place to another place.
Hmm.
Is there ways to kind of cross learn from each other? I mean, that's stuff that I often do it even with my team. Is like, what are the things that you like outside? That you just come back from some lunch or walking just to work or whatever, anything that you've experienced that's been really good, how can we apply that feeling, that emotional connection with the thing that you just had to what we're doing, to what we're designing? I try to help have that conversation with my team a lot, just taking things out of that genre, out of that category, and apply it to what we're doing. Because there's a tendency for us, right, to go and do research on the same area all the time. It's like, why you're designing for a bank? Why look at other banks? Look at other things outside. There might be other things you can apply.
I think it was in Jamie Levy's book, UX Strategy, that talked about the three areas that you can study direct competitors, you can study your indirect competitors, but you can also study your influencers. And so groups like that they have no, they're not in your market at all for what you're selling, but they're things that they've done really well that, as you just said, you might be able to take some cues from. So similar experiences, similar emotional journeys, and try to figure out what does that mean for your product and service area. I like it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because people don't compare brand to brand sometimes. They compare the thing that they need to do at the time with the thing they have to do in another time. And they'll just, more often than not, will choose the one that meets that need faster than your brand. I'm not going to choose KFC over McDonald's because they have better things, but it might be because they're closer to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I don't eat those kinds of food, just saying. But it's really, I think, it really comes down to what is it that that person is trying to solve for themselves, and that nested problem all the way down to what exactly are they trying to do. How is that compared to something else that they like. So I think there's so many things that they were still don't really cover very well, or sometimes miss the point because we're just so focused on that industry or that particular category that you're researching.
I think that sounds like a great place to wrap up. It's a good lesson for everybody to take back to your own workplaces, wherever you might be. Lulu, is how would you like people to find you, chat with you, anything you want them to do?
Oh wow. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't tweet so much anymore as I used to, but yeah. Find me on LinkedIn or lushai.com from our website. And yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been great. And with that, folks, thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you see the design of our everyday world in a new way. To see examples of what we were talking about today, and to keep this conversation going, you can find and follow us at EverydayEXPPod or myself at Geoff Wilson HCD. Please consider leaving us a rating and subscribing to the show on your favorite podcasting app and checking out our previous episodes. And as always, just remember, you don't have to have a fancy job title to start noticing and improving the everyday experiences wherever you work. Thanks, and we'll be on the air again soon. Ba-dun-dun.
And it kind of started with us last year. We were supposed to go back to India, which is where I'm from. Can you hear? Sorry, just stop for a sec. Is it really noisy?
I
Because
can
I can
hear it
hear
on
the
my side,
airplane.
so it might be.
It's interesting because it hardly ever happens, and then when this is like the
Yeah.
only time it's happening. It's right now. I mean, seriously, typical. All right, okay, where was I?